Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Drive Pink Dialogue. And I just want to ask you one question, Saur. Did you wake up today feeling like a champion?
I woke up today with a big smile on my face and I felt like a champion. Let's go.
This is just okay. Let's be, let's try and be professional or appropriate. Inter Miami won the MLS Cup last night in a 3-1 victory over the Vancouver Whitecaps at Drive Pink Stadium in a game that had so many poetic storylines that were all leading towards an Inter Miami MLS Cup victory. And then they got on the field, and the Vancouver Whitecaps said, I have other ideas. And they made it an absolute dogfight until the bitter end. But that's what makes it all the sweeter, because Inter Miami survives the onslaught, makes the plays they have to, and comes away with the victory. And they are champions, and they deserve to be champions, and they are going to live with this moment and this day for the rest of their lives. And I think I am too.
Yesterday evening, Inter Miami went into the game as the favorites, and it looked like the stars were going to align for Messi to finally complete the first chapter of the Inter Miami story. And Vancouver had other ideas. For large parts of that game, Inter Miami was the second best team on the pitch. But sometimes, especially in big games in the finals, it's not about who plays the better football. It's about the moments. It's about the players. It's about the talent. It's about the luck. And it's about the mentality. You mentioned dogfight. And I think Inter Miami players may not have made it pretty for themselves on the way to victory, but they had to fight for it. They dogged it out, and Inter Miami came up as the victors, as the MLS Cup champions for 2025. I am ecstatic. I would have it no other way. If it was too simple, if Vancouver just rolled over and we won this 5-0, I don't think it would have felt as poetic and as maybe it would have, but still. This feels like we earned it and we had to dig for it, and the team had to find something different to get the result this time around compared to the other playoff games, and they found it. And that's what champions do. To win the championship, you have to play like champions. And I think both teams played really well, but Inter Miami on their day had the luck, had the talent, and had the skill.
And the moments. I also think, just selfishly as a fan, being on the edge of your seat until the final moments, and I was until the Tadeo Allende
Yeah.
goal, and I don't think I could recreate the sort of sound I was making as the opportunity comes for Allende, as he's making his one touch, as he sets himself up for the shot, and as he puts it in the back of the net, because you realize it's over. Inter Miami's going to be the MLS Cup champions. There is no last minute Grim Reaper coming to take this away from us. We should start off by just saying Inter Miami won the MLS Cup yesterday, and that's all we're going to talk about on this episode. The roster decisions are going to come out at some point today. They are going to be things we talk about tomorrow, but I think for today we just wanted to think about and celebrate and enjoy this victory. So that's what we're going to do today. This season, we watch our games as fans, and then we do a raw reaction, and then we do the next day, we rewatch the game and we take notes and think about how the game went and player performances and all that, and then we do a post-game recap after having a chance to digest everything. I didn't rewatch the game today, and I'm not sure I'm ever going to rewatch the game because I don't want my experience and how I felt about everything yesterday to really change because it was so special. And so what I did instead was I listened to our raw reaction. I listened to the Battered Herons. I listened to every video commentary about or from Inter Miami fans across the internet just celebrating the victory. And I have to say, worth it, because it's been so special. Last, 22 hours of just thinking about Inter Miami doing this and remembering how frustrated I was 3 years ago, 4 years ago when and even the little moments that I was so excited about to earn a 7th place playoff spot and stuff, to think about how far we've come. It's so incredible. And so this episode is going to be about Inter Miami, MLS Cup champions, and I wouldn't want it to be any other way.
Yeah, what we try to do on this podcast is try and be as analytical, emotionless at times, and rational in our discussion about the game, especially in the post-game show. We try to be grounded and understand what went right, what went wrong. But I think we're beyond that. The season's over. Inter Miami has lifted the trophy, and it would be a disservice to what we've achieved yesterday to think about it analytically. Keep the maths at home. I think this episode is going to be, yes, full of emotions, but I think we just want to soak up what the journey has been, enjoy that, reminisce it, and just make the most of the last 24 hours. And then, of course, from tomorrow onwards, we're going to turn our heads and our focus towards the next season. So it's coming thick and fast. So I think we just wanted to take this time to sit back and just reflect on what's gone by without turning to the analysis aspect of it too much.
Okay, let's get into the game because I think that'll be the basis for all of our discussion after that. Pre-game lineup, not a surprise at all. The only question in my head was, is Ian Frey ready to go 90 minutes? We saw he was ready to go 89 minutes, but that's all we needed, it turns out. The rest of the lineup, I think, was already set based on form and how guys have been playing up until this point. And so it was just a matter of going out there and executing. Vancouver, I think a little bit more uncertainty in how some of their players would play, especially along that back line, had to make some adjustments. But ultimately, Vancouver came out and I thought wasn't afraid of the moment. Inter Miami had a plan to attack in transition. I think they were consistently early on. The plan was to get Allende going over the top. And ultimately, that's what leads to the breakthrough. Messi with a little chip pass to Rodrigo de Paul, and it's Rodrigo de Paul, who I didn't realize until rewatching some of the highlights after, is the guy who makes the little volley pass over the top to Tadeo Allende. Tadeo Allende in the 8th minute drives forward, sees Matteo Salvetti making the run, kind of clear. There's only one defender between Allende and Salvetti, and it is Eddie Ocampo, who is the right back for Vancouver. Tadeo Allende doesn't love his angle. He's already taken a shot a couple minutes earlier on a tough angled shot, powered it a little high. This time he decides to make the pass. Eddie Ocampo, who's making the run in trying to prevent the pass, does get a foot on it, except he puts it in his own net. Inter Miami goes up 1-0 in the 8th minute with an own goal from Vancouver. And ultimately, this is everything you could have dreamed of as an Inter Miami fan. Get an early start, get a goal, a little frustration from the back line. I thought there were some moments early on where it felt like we were getting under their skin. Brian White had a visibly frustrated moment with Maxi Falcone. Like, this is the best possible start you could ask for.
Yeah, in a final where often the limelight can get the better of a lot of players, it looked like Inter Miami was up for it. For the first 10 minutes, we looked on our game. The game plan seemed simple. We didn't want to play through the middle. We wanted to get the ball into our front line as soon as possible. You could see Rocco booting it, Sergio Busquets getting it over the top into Messi as soon as possible. And the idea was to get it into Messi, who brings it down, and then make those runs in behind Vancouver's defense. And it was perfectly executed in that goal. I think Inter Miami gets a bit lucky with Ocampos putting it in the back of his own net, but he could have maybe hit it out somewhere else, or if not, it would have come to Salvetti. I think Allende did really well on that run, but more so it was all about Messi. Messi with that beautiful touch out of the space and pressure, bringing the ball out from two defenders, creates that space. Rodrigo de Paul is free, makes that run. Great ball into Allende. And I feel like Allende finally understood what he needed to do in this playoff series, which was just make as many vertical runs as possible, because he got in front of goal a couple of times. There was another instance where he was one-on-one with the keeper, but he was offsides, unfortunately. But that goal in general was exactly what Inter Miami wanted to do at the start of this game. It looked great. It looked fresh. It looked like they were ready to take the game to Vancouver. And we got the 1-0 lead early, which is huge in a final because now Vancouver has to come out and their game plan goes out the window and they have to chase it.
Yeah, and I know Vancouver's going to feel hard done because it's an own goal, and you're going to be frustrated with Ocampo, and he's going to be incredibly frustrated with himself. But it was a really good moment,
Yeah.
opportunity for Inter Miami. Allende, I think, caught Takayoka stepping towards Silvetti to try and be in a position. So I think if he fires that, he might score himself. And then if it does end up at Silvetti's feet, I think it's an easy tap in. So I actually think there's a really good chance that that ends up as a goal unless Ocampo makes a nice play. And instead, he makes a not so nice play. But either way, I think Inter Miami really should feel like if you get that opportunity consistently, you're going to score a lot of goals with it. So they get a 1-goal lead. And Vancouver, again, couple frustrated moments for the first 10, 15 minutes. They're down 1-0. It is in the sun. It's hot. Maxi Falcone looks like he's doing his thing. I mentioned the Brian White moment. They didn't do a great job of getting Thomas Müller involved early on. And then 15, 20 minutes into the game, they really settled in. And they started putting pressure on Inter Miami. The Herons, whose game plan I think was to get Allende over the top, really didn't have a lot of play through the middle. They really focused defensively through the midfield. I thought Sergio Busquets struggled to get on the ball and effectively play this team forward. But aside from that, it was a lot of credit to Vancouver for just putting sort of Inter Miami under pressure for very long stretches of this game. And they were able to create some really good opportunities. The big one that I think is worth mentioning is in the 38th minute. Thomas Müller on a cross takes it off his head, but instead of trying to shoot, which they had already done, Brian White had a couple shots, header shots that were just sort of right at Oscar Ustari. Thomas Müller switches up the game plan and just heads it towards the far post into an incredibly dangerous area for Emmanuel Sabi. And Rocco Rios Novo slides over, stays big, does not commit one way or the other, and Sabi does not have an obvious answer of where to go with this ball, and he ends up kicking it right at Rocco, who makes the save because he stands tall. It's a huge warning shot from Vancouver. That was their best opportunity so far. They have gotten a couple shots off goal. There was a lot of moments where Inter Miami was fouling Vancouver in set piece areas, and that was, as we talked about in the pregame show, the most dangerous thing Vancouver had to offer, at least stylistically compared to what Inter Miami's weak at. And so it was getting dangerous, and we needed Rocco in that moment to bail us out, but it was getting nervy as we ended the first half, I thought.
Yeah, the first 10 minutes was it for the game plan to work. And after that, it just went out the window for Inter Miami, which is the opposite of what I just said. I thought Vancouver's game plan would go out the window and they'd have to struggle, but Inter Miami's game plan went out the window. Once Vancouver figured out how they want to play, how Inter Miami is trying to play by going long, I think they tried to get to the second balls early. They did a lot more running. They played through the middle really well. Their midfield was brilliant yesterday for large stretches of the game. And you mentioned that as soon as they figured out that they can play through the middle, through Inter Miami and out physical them at some points of the game, they were just a lot more confident. They were pushing. Inter Miami was falling deeper and deeper, and the chances were coming for them. You mentioned a couple of chances, but for me, what the biggest issue was that we were constantly conceding silly set pieces in front of our goal, which was putting a lot more pressure on Inter Miami. There was no rhythm to the game. There was no flow. There was no outball to relieve some of the pressure. So it looked like Vancouver was the better team, even though the scoreline read 1-0. And honestly, I felt it was inevitable before Vancouver would get one back. Inter Miami was very lucky going into the half, just 1-0 up and not drawing the game or losing 2-1, because Vancouver, after that goal, really played a very good game.
It didn't feel like much changed either. And here's what I will say. And this is the thing I've actually wanted Miami to do more this season, is just play sustained dominant periods in the opposition's half. And then when you have Inter Miami's quality, you're going to get great chances and score a bunch of goals. And that's sort of the suffocating nature of what I think this Inter Miami team is capable of that we didn't see enough this year. But Vancouver was doing it. And then you go into halftime and there's no changes. And I was really surprised by this because of how the first half went. We had a couple guys on yellow cards that I thought were not really adjusting their game enough to think they won't get a second yellow card. And so that was making me nervous. And then the halftime adjustments didn't, even though there was no personnel changes, it didn't look like they were doing much different. It was continued pressure from Vancouver. And it did feel a couple points like, man, this Inter Miami team's in trouble because they can't get anything going. There was a moment where they got the ball. It was like an outlet pass to Messi. And I remember thinking, oh, perfect. This is an opportunity for us to do something. And then like as the whole play's unfolding, it's like he's at the halfway line picking the ball up with 45 yards to run, and there's no one else around him. This is not a real chance, but compared to, like, it was a standout moment because of how under the pressure Inter Miami was. So again, I was surprised there was no changes at halftime. I thought pretty quickly after halftime you had to see changes were necessary. All that to be said, there was a moment in the 56th minute, I think, against the run of play where Jordi Alba puts a cross in and Takaoka comes out, punches it, but it kind of goes high and Messi does get a head on it. And what a goal that would have been if he was able to put it on target. It goes just wide. And so Vancouver kind of saved in that one moment, but it was really the exception to everything that was happening in that game.
Yeah, we were almost in a false sense of security with that 1-0 lead. And I know Javier Mascherano wanted to protect it. He wanted to go into the second half with the same team because we were 1-0 up. But I agree with you. I would have brought in either Telasco Segovia or Yannick Bright for the defensive aspect, but more so Telasco Segovia, bringing him earlier because Inter Miami lacked control. They were not able to play on the ball. It wasn't even like they were misplacing the passes or whatever. They were just not able to keep hold of the ball and control it and just play with rhythm. And when that's the situation, I think Telasco Segovia is one of the most perfect players suited to wrest back control. He can play with Busquets. He can play with Rodrigo de Paul. He can play with Messi. So I would have made that change earlier. But it always felt for me inevitable that Vancouver is going to get back into this game because Inter Miami was struggling. It was not easy. Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think that was the perfect change. I get the Baldassar is slightly more athletic than Telasco Segovia, but you were just getting run through in the midfield.
Yeah.
And you needed possession and just to like opportunities to catch your breath. I thought was really important. And I was kind of surprised Telasco didn't come in at halftime, if I'm totally honest.
I do want to say one thing, though. Credit to our defense because they were under the cosh for long moments. And I know there were a couple of moments, if luck was against us, Vancouver would have scored. But our defensive shape held. Ian Frey, Maxi Falco, Noah Allen, they were winning the balls in the air. The set pieces came to nothing from Vancouver, which was very surprising to me. And for large parts, I think 85% of it, our defense was up to whatever Vancouver was offering. And Vancouver's got tricky players. When you have someone like Ali Ahmed and Sabi on both sides of the wing, they can change the game in a blink of an eye. So I do want to give credit to our defense for holding firm and trying to absorb the sustained pressure because it's not easy. And we've talked about how Inter Miami is not built to do that. But in this game, it looked like they were put under the pressure, but they handled it well enough. I think the midfield was where we were lacking the most.
Yeah. And then, of course, listen, the dam finally broke. 60th minute, Ali Ahmed with the goal. It's a ball into Thomas Muller I think it's Brian White at the sort of edge of the box, and he's very patient with it. Ian Frey cheating towards Brian White a little bit, and then Brian White finds the open Ali Ahmed sort of coming in from that left wing. Finds the pass. Ali Ahmed takes the shot. Rocco dives for it, gets hands on it, not as strong enough to push it wide. It hits the inside of the post and bounces in. And that's sort of the nightmare, I thought. They were so much better for the last at least 40 minutes of game time. And they broke through. And you didn't really think Inter Miami was going to hold that 1-0 lead, but you're just waiting for something in the game to change, and you just hope that you still have the lead when the change in the game can come. And it just never happened until finally Vancouver breaks through. Ali Ahmed gets the goal. It's 1-1. And Vancouver not only has the sort of momentum within the game, within the sort of field of play, but just mentally they have all the momentum. And squeaky bum time, I don't think is a appropriate enough, strong
No,
enough
it
term.
was
It was
it was
dangerous.
squeaky bum time before that.
Yeah.
After that, it was like all hands on deck, mate, because game on. It is such an ironic thing that Rocco Rios Novo gets a very firm hand in it. And of all the goals that he concedes, it's that one in the final. Because if he were to concede the previous opportunity that he saved, I would have forgiven him because it was so close quarters. This one, I think he should have probably saved, but you can't blame him. It's fine. He was doing really well up until that point, and it was a great opportunity for Ahmed. It was an open goal as well. So maybe if Rocco had a little bit stronger of an hand, but we asked too much. And at that point, I thought, this is it, man. Momentum's in Vancouver's favor. The problem up until that point was that Inter Miami hadn't found the rhythm, and to now go and score a goal without the rhythm and momentum in your favor is so difficult. So I thought this was Vancouver's game to lose after that.
They hadn't found anything
No,
aside
no.
from just the occasional ball over the top to Allende, which
Messi, yeah.
Vancouver had figured that out
Mm-hmm.
halfway through the first half. There was nothing. Inter Miami barely crossed halfway with the ball, and if they did, it was sort of like a desperate outlet pass to Segovia making a run, or you find Messi to get it to his feet with three defenders there to cover him. It was not looking good. I will just say. And then 2 minutes later, really, you almost get the death knell. Emmanuel Sabi hits both posts, fires a shot. Again, 2 minutes after Vancouver scores, Emmanuel Sabi hits the right side, then the left side. Then there's a third post hit after Maxi Falcone tries to clear and isn't able to. Hits the post again, goes out. Inter Miami saved, but again, it's just as devastating as it could be because it felt like we were watching the MLS Cup slip through after everything we've been through this season. And I didn't really know how they were going to fix it.
I was done. I knew that at that point that Inter Miami is not losing this game. I knew for a fact that after that it was Inter Miami's game because when it hits the first post, then it hits the second post, then it hits the post again. I was like, no matter what Vancouver does from here on, Inter Miami is going to win this game, whether it's in penalties, whether it's in extra time, or whether it's in regulation time, because luck was on our side that day. And that was the perfect example of how that day was made for Inter Miami. So I thought to myself, if that doesn't go in, nothing's going in for Vancouver. Hand the trophy to Inter Miami.
Yeah, I didn't feel that way. I thought we were. I was
way,
put Suarez on because I don't know what else to do here.
Credit to Falcone though, he got his body in the line at the right point. I know it hit the post, but he was everywhere at that point. Even Rocco scrambling to save it. So we get away with one, and I think that's when the tide changed.
Yeah. I don't. I think the tide changed in the 71st minute, almost 10 minutes later. I thought Vancouver continued to pressure, and it was again. I thought we were going to lose at this point. I really did, and I did not have any answers to any of the things we were watching on the field. But the real answer is ask Lionel Messi to be the greatest player ever, and that's exactly what he did with a defensive steal from Andres Cubas, who was playing he was phenomenal. He was
man of the match for Vancouver up until that point, honestly.
And then he takes one poor touch, and Messi catches the opportunity, picks his pocket, pushed the ball through a perfectly weighted, soft little touch that I'm sure both Vancouver defenders, including a guy they just brought on, Pupe, who has not played much, and I apologize if I didn't pronounce that correctly, are going to be thinking about how they were 8 inches away from intercepting that ball for a long time. But it sneaks through. Rodrigo de Paul, one touch into the box, and then buries it in the far post. And it was the moment I was talking about earlier. When is the moment going to come that is going to change the nature of this game? And it is manufactured by Lionel Messi with a defensive play and then a perfect touch. Rodrigo de Paul makes the run out of the midfield and then buries it in the far post. And that's what this whole thing is about. Change the game. As the MR says in the chat, Vancouver ran out of steam after that, and that DePaul goal kind of broke their spirit. They went out and signed the best player in the world, and then they went out and signed a World Cup champion so they could make those moments. And they did it in the MLS Cup final. Inter Miami gets a 2-1 lead, and I really never thought Vancouver was able to regain the momentum or the initiative. I really did think that broke their spirit in a hard to sort of articulate way. But it was the winner, and it won them the game.
Let's go back 30 seconds because Inter Miami was on transition from a Vancouver attack with Allende on that right-hand side of the pitch. Rodrigo de Paul's in the middle. He gets the ball. Or Allende tries to pass the ball to Rodrigo de Paul and then mispasses it straight to Cubas. And I have my head in my hand. I was like, we can't be doing this in the 70th minute when the game is completely in Vancouver's momentum. And then Messi happens. And the reason I want to stop on that is because that's not a joke what he did, right? Andre Cubas knows Messi's there. He turns around to, I think, just shimmy away from him, cover the ball a little bit. Messi anticipates that. He takes him there. It was all IQ play from Messi. Yes, it's a great defensive steal, but Messi almost drove him into that corner and then just took the ball off him. It was brilliant. If you rewatch that moment, the way Messi actually manipulates Cubas into thinking he doesn't have the space to turn, so he goes the wrong way and then just takes the ball off him. It's brilliant to watch. And then immediately lays it off to Rodrigo de Paul, who now is actually in a much more forward position because he was expecting that ball from Allende. So then he's able to make that run. And in that moment, I'm thinking, this is it. It's going in because Rodrigo de Paul is not going to miss this opportunity. Great finish from him, but what a combination from the two of them. I agree with you. I think that killed Vancouver's potential comeback. It broke their spirits. And I think as much as Inter Miami's substitutes helped them regain the control, I thought Vancouver's substitutes sort of killed their momentum. And that's the game, man. All it takes is one moment. And these knockout games are all about the moment. Inter Miami defensively strong and stout and withstands the storm that comes their way somehow. And then we have the greatest player on the pitch to create that moment for us. And he does that in the most important game of our history. And that's what you want. Who shows up? Lionel Messi.
No, I think you make a great point. 68th minute. So they get the goal in the 60th minute. They have another chance in the 62nd minute that they're going to regret not putting in the back of the net. 68th minute, they make the substitutions. On offense, they took out Ali Ahmed, who I thought was a dangerous player that Inter Miami had to consistently account for, even if I thought they did a good job of keeping him under control. But they also took out Priso, their center back, and put in a guy that the team, I think they said he played 4 minutes all year for them. Yeah. They brought him in the summer. So you didn't have a ton of comfortability. You don't know how that's affecting Andres Cubas' ability to sort of trust him and where are we going to play this ball. And so half a split second of
indecision.
Trepidation, indecision allows Messi to do that. And again, in a game that Messi was not ultra involved in, he was not dominating on the ball, he was not like the main driving force of this game, he still found a way to manipulate in a way where he could be the difference maker. And then Rodrigo de Paul, and I'm sure we'll talk about him more, to put that away is, he's a midfielder, he's a box-to-box midfielder. I know he's world-class and he's a World Cup winner and all that stuff, but not every midfielder is going to put that on target. Not everyone's going to beat the keeper, and he did in the biggest moment. So, we'll talk about it more later. And so now we get into a point where Inter Miami spent a long chunk of this game with a 1-goal lead, and Vancouver just came at them over and over and over and over and over again until they broke through and tied it. 10 minutes later, Inter Miami gets another lead. I'm not sure what's going to happen at this point, because Vancouver responded pretty well to going down a goal early in the game. I'm thinking, okay, Yannick Bright, get him in the game. How's our back line feeling? Do we need to make a sub there? Should we be taking out Silvetti and Allende to get extra legs in behind? I think with the way this has gone, I don't know if we have a ton of opportunities going the other direction to get the third goal, but maybe we will play the game out. And as the minutes tick away, you're kind of thinking, okay, 85th minute, we're getting pretty close. 90th minute, they put up a 7. You're like, it could have been worse. Okay, 92nd minute, you start getting there. 94th minute, and you're feeling it. You just, every time Vancouver gets on the ball, it's nervy because you know it could all be taken away. But then every time Inter Miami makes a pass to get out of danger or a takeaway or forces the ball out of bounds, you just know 10 seconds, 20 seconds coming off. Okay, Inter Miami gets the ball. They can take 45 seconds off the clock here. And it's just ticking away and ticking away and ticking away. And then finally, in the 96th minute, Jordi Alba puts a pass over the top centrally to Messi, who just volleys it past the back line to Tadeo Allende. And in the most fitting fashion, Messi gets an assist, and Tadeo Allende breaks the MLS playoff goal-scoring record in the 96th minute with a put-away goal to give Inter Miami the MLS Cup. And I started this off by saying there was all sorts of poetic fairy tale storylines heading to that exact moment. And it all came to fruition. And so it's not just Inter Miami winning the MLS Cup, but every part of that sequence, every part of this game, I think was storybook. And Inter Miami completes it, and they win the MLS Cup. On that play, Javier Mascherano runs onto the field and hugs Jordi Alba, and everyone goes wild because they know it's over. They've done it. And Inter Miami are the MLS Cup champions.
Yeah, that was the exaltation of what was a very, very long season. I do want to talk about that ticking of the timepiece because you get Yannick Bright on, you get Telasco Segovia on. Oh my God, that is what you need in those minutes. I don't know if you remember, but Telasco Segovia had a couple of moments where the ball was sticking to him. He was with the ball, protecting it. There were 3 players around him. He does like this flick out into the open and gets the ball to Rodrigo de Paul, and those just eat out the seconds. Similarly, Yannick Bright. Vancouver's coming at us. There's just one player up top. That's Yannick Bright. Everyone else is behind the ball trying to protect it. Yannick Bright wins it. He wins it. The ball goes further away from Vancouver. You gain the minutes. That's what you need in those moments. I think those were the 2 substitutes that completely changed the nature of the game. Because after that second goal that Inter Miami scored, Vancouver could not come on to us anymore. Inter Miami was controlling the ball better. They were winning the second balls better. They were winning the balls in dangerous areas and then hitting on transition. It just looked like, okay, we're finally gathering some sort of momentum and rhythm. It was still nerve-wracking because we were only 1 goal up. But I don't know if you saw in that goal when we finally scored that third go-away goal, the ball was coming to Yannick Bright and Jordi Alba just pushes him away. He's like, nah, I've got this. And with the first kick, he gets it straight into Messi, who then delivers it into Allende. And what better way to finish off the playoffs than with the hero of the playoffs getting his goal, the cherry on top of the cake. That was it, man. I just let out a massive sigh of relief, and Inter Miami are MLS Cup champions. That's it. I'm reliving that moment, and it just makes me feel like, oh, that was goosebumps, man. That was goosebumps. It was fantastic.
I want to talk about the sequence you just mentioned, or the period of time where they were killing the game off 45 seconds at a time by finding the outlet passes that they were not doing early in the game. And that was the biggest thing in the first 65 minutes of this game was they were not able to find the outlet pass. They either had to just bomb it forward and return possession to Vancouver, or they just sort of couldn't find the outlet pass and it was a turnover. And so they were just constantly turning the ball over, whether it was just go deep and let us reset the defense, which was most of it, or if it was sort of just a bad turnover. They couldn't figure out how to break through. And then when they brought Telasco Segovia and Yannick Bright on, they did. But again, I want to talk about this more when we get later into this episode, so I'll save it that. This is like the mountaintop. And that was the game, and it was awesome, and it was so much fun, and it was nervy, and it was exciting, and it was a release at the end, and then it was just happiness and euphoria. And I don't know what else to say. I really don't. I don't want to talk about the substitutions other than I thought, they played well, the tactical decisions, how they set up. Like, none of that I think matters to me. All that matters is that you found a way to win when you had to find a way to win, and they did it. And so congratulations to Javier Mascherano, his staff, Messi, Rodrigo de Paul, the entire team, and then to everyone out there who was at the stadium and was watching on TV. Inter Miami are MLS Cup champions.
Yeah, I did not want to do this episode where Inter Miami came out the losers and we were that close to winning but did not. I wanted to do this as champions, and it's such a good feeling to win the way we did as well. I know it wasn't perfect, but sometimes imperfection is where the class and the passion lies. And I think we appreciate it a lot more because we had to work for it, and Vancouver brought their A game. So I do want to give them credit. I want to congratulate Vancouver for a great season. They made it to the final of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. They made it to the final of the MLS Cup. They won their Canadian Cup. They've, I think, been the only team in the MLS who's reached the final of every single tournament that they've played. So not an easy game by any means, a very difficult competition. And I thought it was a worthy final, a fantastic watch. And thank you for this great season. That's all.
Yeah. I want to talk bigger picture about the entire playoff run, but maybe it makes sense to start with awards. So is there anything else about this game that you want to talk about before we get to awards?
No, I think we stretched it long enough. I thought we would get to awards much earlier, but that's the nature of the final when you play it and win it. So let's get to awards. And I'm sure we're going to talk a lot more about a lot of the other players.
I will say I did just enjoy reliving that entire game.
That was brilliant, yeah.
Okay, guys, as you know, after every game, we give out 6 awards on this show, but we are making an audible today. We have never done this before, but we are skipping Heron That Flew North because all the Herons were exactly where they needed to be. So we're going to give out a Heron of the Match and then 5 individual awards. And Saur, because I'm a gentleman, I will let you go first. Who was Inter Miami's Heron of the Match in this game?
It was a tough one. There were a couple of really, really good performances, and of course, few players contributing to the goals. But for me, it was Rodrigo de Paul. Over the course of 90 minutes, I thought he was Inter Miami's best player on that pitch. In a final, he showed up. We've constantly had doubts about him or just his ability to impact the game the same way that Messi does, Alba does, Busquets does. And yesterday night, he showed up. And when it was his moment to put the marker of victory on Inter Miami's jersey, which is the star, he took it. He took that beautifully. It was a difficult opportunity, and he buried the ball and gave Inter Miami the winning goal. And made the game easier from there on. But regardless, I think other than the goal, he had that assist, pre-assist to Allende, which eventually turned into a goal as well. And he was just everywhere on that pitch. It wasn't the kind of game where Inter Miami controlled the ball, as we've discussed, so maybe we can't talk much about his ability on the ball as such. But regardless, he was running around, and as the game grew into it, he became stronger and stronger while everyone else was getting gassed, I think. So do want to credit him. He never stopped running, and that was a fantastic, fantastic performance from him in a final where there are a couple of other really good performers, and he had to go up against a very good Vancouver midfield. So for me, Rodrigo de Paul, Heron of the Match. Congratulations.
He made a championship moment in a champion. He made a championship play in a championship moment, and won a championship because of it. And for all of the flack that we've given him for some of his performances since he got here, he delivered, and that is not easy to do. And the reason, whenever we have finals, I always immediately look at how did the best players perform, and were they good enough to pull out victory. It's because they get paid the big bucks to do the hardest thing, And it's not that that shot is incredibly difficult for a professional soccer player to put in the back of the net, but it is incredibly difficult to do it in that moment, in that environment, under the type of pressure you know your team's under. This is the game. I think if he doesn't put that in the back of the net, Inter Miami loses. And instead, he puts a dagger in the momentum of Vancouver that they never recovered from. This single moment is what won Inter Miami the MLS Cup. And so Messi had his outlet passes that set things up, and then a couple assists. Defensively, I thought there were some really standout performances, but nothing was more important than Rodrigo de Paul and that championship-winning moment that he puts in the back of the net. And then, as you mentioned, from that point on, he was the guy in the midfield. You know, the first 70 minutes, he was working hard and he was playing well, but after he scored, he took it to another level. He was the most dominant player on the field, especially defensively. And so for that 25 minutes, I thought this was absolutely the right person to give the award to. And like I think he's singularly responsible yesterday for helping Inter Miami win that, for getting Inter Miami the MLS Cup. I really do. So hero of the match, no doubt about it. And what a way to change the entire narrative about your time at Inter Miami, and 17 million well spent for that one single moment.
And it's not like he's been bad, but it's just the expectations have been so high from him that it feels like he's never really lived up to that potential yet. But if he can pull that in those big moments, then I think he's cemented his legacy at Inter Miami so far by that moment. We're always going to remember him for that goal in the final now, no matter what happens. So I hope this is just the start, because he's still in his prime and there's so much more to come from Rodrigo de Paul. But I'm glad that he was able to make that impactful statement and put the exclamation mark on the final yesterday in a way that few players get the opportunity to do. And this is his first trophy in his club career. So congratulations to Rodrigo de Paul as well for having the winning goal.
Yeah, I'm gushing about him, and congratulations. Is there conspiracy theory time? He dyed his hair blonde or like white, like 3 games after he got here. Was he just bad with white hair, and then once it grew out again, he started playing well? Or
The sample size is too large for us to say no. Yes, I agree with you. It happened to Luis Suarez, it happened to Campana, and it probably happened to Rodrigo de Paul as well. So a public service announcement to every single Inter Miami player: please do not dye your hair blonde ever while you're playing for Inter Miami.
Or white, either.
Or white, yeah.
Yeah, so congratulations. I'm sure if there's an MLS Cup final MVP, they would have given it to Lionel Messi. He gets 2 assists, and we'll talk about him here in a second. But like for me, and the way I think of finals, the way I think of big games and big moments, like I think Rodrigo de Paul was, for me, also hero of the match. So great choice. Okay, my first award. And I wanted to do something symbolic. If we're gonna break our rule for the first time ever and not give out a Heron That Flew North, I figured it's best to do something symbolic. And so I'm giving the Heartbeat Award, which I give to players that do something very meaningful with relation to Inter Miami. And I'm giving it to Lionel Messi, who is the only reason any of this is possible. And we try and treat him like he's a guy on the team and the superstar, but not, we don't always talk about everything he means to this entire project. But I do think it's appropriate today. So 2 assists, including the ones that win it, right? Had the huge defensive moment. I don't think this was a game that really played out in a way that helped facilitate his game, and yet he still found a way to be magnificent. Gets 2 assists, and I think completes the greatest 15-20 game run in the history of the MLS, and I don't even think that's in question. If you go look at his goals and assists and performances and ratings over the last 20, 25 games, it is unbelievable how good and consistently good he's been. And even in the final, when Inter Miami was really under pressure, he makes the play. He initiates the play defensively that kicks off that Rodrigo de Paul goal that allows him to make the difference. So for everything that he means to this club and for everything that we get to experience because he came here and because he's a part of this team, Lionel Messi, I'm giving you the Heartbeat Award.
Opposition fans often say that Inter Miami would be nowhere without Messi, and this is Inter Messi, and he's carrying us, and it's a carry job. And I agree. They think it's an insult, but I agree. Yes, we would be nowhere without Lionel Messi. This is his club. This is his legacy that we're seeing unfold in front of us. And Inter Miami is a big part of it now. He will always be a champion with Inter Miami. And I agree with you guys who say that Inter Miami would be nowhere with Messi. He is the heartbeat of this club. We would not be here without him. So we have to acknowledge that this is the chapter that he is the protagonist of. And I'm going to enjoy every single moment, every single game that he plays for this club, because we're counting down moments now. He's not going to be here forever. And while he's here, we're going to win everything, or we want to win everything. And this is just the start, hopefully, to what will be another lovely 2 years. He deserves this more than anyone else. I think his performances over the last 3 months have not just been godly, but have been out of this world. He has been performing at a level in the MLS that has never been seen before. We've often compared the likes of Denny Buanga and Son and all those big name players having fantastic seasons, but Messi is almost doubling their numbers with the contributions that he has every single game. It's not even a joke, the consistency with which he's playing and the effect that he's having on this team. At one point in the season, we didn't think we were going to win anything. We were down and out in this team. The vibes were low. And that's when Messi came out and gave that interview and said, we're going to turn things around. It was his leadership that's led us to where we are. Yesterday might not have been the perfect performance for him, might not have been the most appropriate way that we played to facilitate his greatness, but he found a way to make a difference. And as you said, he made a champion play in a champion moment to win us the championship. And that's what champions do, right? We constantly talked about it's not going to be about the talent, the skill. It will be about the moment and about who shows up. And Messi showed up, and he's been showing up every single day over the last 3 months, but also since he's got here to this club. We now have 3 trophies because of him. 4 if you want to count the conference trophy as well. But that's not a joke. From this moment on, the Messi project is a success, and nobody can tell you otherwise.
That I want to talk about legacies after we go through awards, so I will save it. But yeah, Lionel Messi, and he played well yesterday in a game that did not, like, I want to give him so much credit because that game was so not built for Messi, and you know, if this was a different environment right now, we might talk about why Inter Miami didn't make that game a game for Messi, but he still found a way to make huge, crucial plays that helped win them the MLS Cup. So second in terms of hair in the match, without a doubt. And again, just thank you for giving us the opportunity to have these experiences. It is a joy and a pleasure.
You were spot on when you said that if Inter Miami is to win the MLS Cup, he's going to have at least 2 goal contributions every game. Didn't need it in NYCFC, but every other game he's had 2 or more goal contributions. That is nothing short of greatness.
But you know what? The team has grown. Like, I've been saying that all season. And the team also grew into a spot where other guys could carry some of the load. So, and because he sort of helped them through the tough periods, they are still in a position to make this happen when they get it all going in the right direction. So, yeah, Lionel Messi, the heartbeat, and I think if we're going to give permanent awards, I think that one goes to him. Okay, so what is your first? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Just to put a full stop to this, Inter Miami win the CONCACAF Champions Cup under Messi, that's it. He's won every trophy that there is to win. Maybe not US Open Cup, but all the major trophies.
When we signed Messi, I think we would have asked for an MLS Cup and a CONCACAF Champions Cup, but anything else would have been, well, maybe the Supporter Shield, but anything else would have been sort of gravy. And so I think you get an A with this one. You can still get an A plus if you can get the CONCACAF Champions Cup and qualify for the next Club World Cup. And we're going to participate in the Campeones Cup next season, so we'll have a chance to add some trophies. And one day we will get back to that Open Cup final and win it. But you're right. I think this makes it a success, and I think this is the pillar that everything else will stand on, as far as his legacy as a player at Inter Miami. Okay, what is your first award?
My first award is Last of the Mohicans Award.
The Last of the Mohicans Award is going to go to either Jordi Alba or Sergio Busquets, because they are the last of a dead breed, officially, as of yesterday. I'm going to go Sergio Busquets because I don't know, flip a coin. Sergio Busquets.
Yeah, we use the term unicorn. I think that applies more to Sergio Busquets than it does to Jordi Alba. He will, in fact, be the last of the Mohicans. This is it. This is the last time we saw Sergio Busquets on a football pitch play in a professional setting. He was the last person to touch the ball before the whistle went. He is the last of the ilk of midfielders that we saw, at least in our generation of football. The quintessential cerebral Spanish technical midfielders. Everyone from hereafter has to be physical, athletic, needs to have legs. But he defined a generation of midfielders that I don't think we're going to see again.
And stood above.
He led the pack. And that's it. The era of the unicorn is over. Inter Miami is probably never going to see a midfielder like him in our starting 11. So we saw greatness. We should appreciate it and we should applaud it. And I'm just glad that he ended it on the highest possible note. So congratulations for a wonderful career, and thank you for everything you've done for Inter Miami.
I don't think the Spanish national team is going to see a player like Sergio Busquets again. I don't think Barcelona is going to see a player like Sergio Busquets again. So the fact, and we've said this many times, the fact that he came to our club to do what he did and play here for the last couple of years, and we got to watch it week in and week out, was incredibly special. I'm not sure he played fantastic yesterday. I think maybe, there could have been point where he really regretted his performance, except for the fact that all that matters is you win. And as some people in the chat are mentioning, that 97th minute whistle blew, and he's on his knees on the verge of tears, just so happy. And you can see how much this meant to him. And all the storybook, fairy tale, poetic permutations that led to this moment, they all came to fruition. And I think it is incredibly, incredibly appropriate that his last touch is coming as the last touch for an MLS Cup champion. And so congratulations to him, his family, his career, but just for what he did in this playoff run and this season and this 2.5 year period in Inter Miami. It's been incredible. He is an absolute unicorn. You're absolutely right. And it's been a privilege to be able to watch him. So congratulations to everyone involved, and thank you for being a part of this. It was awesome to watch.
All right, your turn.
Okay, I will say my awards are, I'm going to give them to one player, but they're representative of more players. So I just want to put that out there. But my first
the
award
Heartbeat 2 award.
Yeah. The Freedom to Dream Award. Better.
The Freedom to Dream Award. I think you're going to give this to Ian Frey.
What makes you say that?
Because he was one of 2 homegrown players on that pitch yesterday. And with the journey that he's had from where he's come, what he's had to go through He's now an MLS Cup champion. And there's only a handful of people who can say that. And Ian Frey has completed that story with Inter Miami. He is the one who's dreamt it, and the dream is now a reality. By the way, I also had an award for him.
It absolutely goes to Ian Frey. And talk about a kid from South Florida. And then, yeah, this goes to Noah Allen as well, you know, as part of this. But Ian Frey, because of everything he had to overcome. He grew up in Coral Springs, man. I remember playing, and now obviously I'm older than Ian Frey, but I remember playing kids from Coral Springs in youth sports growing up. Like, I remember that. And that's how I learned about Coral Springs a couple towns over, because we played their baseball team when I was 10 years old or whatever. So for him to go on and be an MLS Cup champion representing Broward County and South Florida, to come through the academy, to show all the promise he did every single time he was on the pitch, only for a sort of devastating injury to rob us. As fans, I think we always had the freedom to dream on this player. I think he lived up to that this season. And then for him to be an MLS Cup champion, he's going to have great opportunities moving forward. And if this was the last game of Ian Frey to enter Miami, thank you for being a part of this, and congratulations to you. And I obviously am going to celebrate and wish you all the best with everything you do moving forward. But it is really like a full circle moment, I think, for this club on the whole, that this player and the academy and everything they've worked for, not just for the last 2.5 years since Messi arrived, but that for the last 6-7 years since they built this entire club from scratch, came to fruition with him. And I will just say, I almost made the thumbnail for this episode a picture of him with the trophy, because it's just so, like, you could see the emotion on his face and everything, and it was a great picture. So just to see how much it means to these guys, it's just incredible. And then specifically for this game, Ali Ahmed, I think, is like such an X factor that doesn't get enough credit for that Vancouver team. And he is so tricky, and he is so athletic, and he is so good at just creating space for himself. And aside from one moment, I thought Ian Frey locked him down. And so not only did he have a huge performance, I thought, defensively in this game, all of the meaning, big picture meaning, also applied. But man, I can't say enough great things about Ian Frey. And I think he is like the fundamental archetype of what this club and should be, and what Inter Miami players can be. And so just so happy for him. And yeah, it's awesome, man.
Ian Frey had one of the toughest jobs on the pitch yesterday. That was to defend Ali Ahmed, who had 2 assists in the conference finals. He had a goal in the final, of course. But I think other than that goal, Ian Frey was flawless. He was locking Ali Ahmed down. He was protecting Falcone, and everything that was coming, well, his way he protected, but everything that was happening for Vancouver seemed to be happening on the right-hand side, where Jordi Alba was slightly pushing up. But I had an award for him that specifically refers to his performance yesterday, and I called it the Barbican Award, because the Barbican is like the first outpost of a castle and the first line of defense. And he was the first line of defense for Inter Miami in that game yesterday, and I thought he was 99% there. He had everything that he needed to do to stop Ali Ahmed. It was a tough game for him. But here's the thing. He's gone from being a homegrown player, suffering so many injuries, to playing in the final, to now winning the final. And nobody can take that away from him. This was the culmination of the start of... Well, this was the culmination of Inter Miami's homegrown talent finally coming good. But I think this is the start of Ian Frey's career. He may not be on this team, not because we don't want to renew his contract, but he gets an opportunity somewhere else, somewhere better. And if that's the case, then I want nothing more for him. He needs to go out and show his talent to the world, because he's done what he needed to do for Inter Miami. It was brilliant to watch yesterday. It was a proud moment for us, and I'm so happy for what he's achieved after such a tough 2 years. To go from being a fringe player, having those injuries, to being a prospect, to then not being preferred as the starting right back, to now earning your place to be starting that final. he's done it. He's done it in the best way possible. So congratulations to him as well. He was brilliant yesterday.
Yeah, and again, I mentioned my awards are going to represent more people.
Yeah.
I mentioned
Noah
Noah
Allen.
Allen, and
I thought his best
you know,
performance in months.
and throw Yannick Bright and throw Benjamin Kramaski and David Ruiz in there from that perspective, but also from the defensive perspective, where I thought he played excellent. I don't have an award for Maxi Falcone or Noah Allen or Jordi. Well, I don't have an award for Rocco, the defense, but I thought like they really stood up when Inter Miami needed them to, and so from that perspective, I also want this to represent the entire back line and goalkeeper. So. Yeah, Ian Frey, the Freedom to Dream Award, which I also think is pretty fitting for Inter Miami. Okay, what is your second award?
My second award is the Song of the Heron Award.
Nice. I love the theme. The Song of the Heron Award is going to go to Jordi Alba because he also has to get an award for this game. And by the way, he gets the hockey assist for the goal that seals it. And just defensively, I think stood up so tall. Jordi Alba.
It is Jordi Alba. And the reason I gave him the Song of the Heron Award is it sounds poetic. It sounds pretty regal. Something that, bards would compose in olden times. And his story with Inter Miami has nothing been short of poetic. His last touch as a professional football player was a ball into Lionel Messi, which led to a goal. It can't be more poetic than that. Future songwriters will write about this when they talk about Inter Miami's history. He has been a servant of this club in the 3 years that he's played, 2 years that he's played here. He has been brilliant. He's redefined that left back position, having almost the most number of goal contributions from a defender in the MLS. And the last 6 months of his play with Inter Miami have been nothing short of miraculous. Same level as Lionel Messi. Like, he's been playing at such a high level, and it's brilliant to watch. And this was his story, and this was his song, and I'm just glad that he got to finish his story again on a high note, like Sergio Busquets. And I think the purpose of these awards is to just thank them and recognize what they've achieved for Inter Miami, and it's nothing short of miraculous.
Yeah, last touch is contributing to a goal. And it's to Lionel Messi, and it's to seal a MLS Cup championship. He also very emotional at the end.
Yeah.
And that's awesome to see. And so I think it's easy for guys to come in and maybe not fully tie your heart to the success or failure of what happens at this stage of his career, but it absolutely felt like he did. And I will just tell everyone, Jordi Alba is like one of the sort of best guys in the locker room in terms of cheering everybody up and
exactly
character and keeping things light and happy. And so, again, like huge part of this entire era at Inter Miami, and for him to finish in that way, it's so poetic, it's so beautiful. It is the Song of the Heron, and maybe that'll be the title of this entire episode and run in the playoffs. So good award, and I think Jordi Alba, again, just like I said with Busquets, unicorn that I think we're lucky to have been able to watch at Inter Miami. Okay, my last award is the My Midfield Award, and I will say I had awards for Busquets and Alba, so this is my least creative award name, but I am glad we get to talk about it. It's the My Midfield Award.
The My Midfield Award either goes to Telasco Segovia or Yannick Bright. I think you're going to give it to Yannick Bright because he's going to be a starter next season. He has to be a starter next season, and there's no chance that he doesn't start the game.
It's going to Telasco Segovia.
We were so close to having 100% record this time around as well. Oh. Same reason. He needs to start next season.
And again, representative of Yannick Bright included. So
yeah,
I'll give you the point for that. He is so talented, and he came on in the 54th minute. It didn't quite change the game, but when he and Yannick Bright were on the field at the same time, it allowed Inter Miami to kill that game off. And so for Rodrigo de Paul and Messi to create the lead again in the 72nd minute. That was obviously huge, but there's still 25 minutes of game time. And in the previous 25 minutes, Vancouver had created a ton of great chances and scored a goal. And so it did not feel like it was over. But once Segovia and Yannick Bright were on the field, they started to play out of dangerous situations. They started to possess the ball better. They were good enough that I think it allowed Busquets and Rodrigo de Paul to sort of get back in the game from a possession perspective. And so as we are talking about these ultra nervy moments as the clock winds down, where you just play an outlet ball and then it frees you up to take another 20 seconds off the clock. And then you play it back and you take another 20 seconds off the clock and it just tick, 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 and you're getting so close. They were the answer to everything that was going wrong in the midfield yesterday. And then when they came on, everything went right. That is the trio, if you throw in DePaul, that I want to be our midfield next season. I want them to be the core of the central part of our pitch. You can see how well it works together. You can see how it fits so plainly. You get the box to box, you get the 6, you get the sort of creative number 10. In that midfield, it is so well balanced, and it helped us win this MLS Cup and see out these last 25 minutes. So to Telasco Segovia, to Yannick Bright, that's the My Midfield Award, because they were excellent. They helped us see out this game after Rodrigo de Paul gave us that 2-1 lead.
I don't think I can say anything more to that, because you've absolutely nailed it. They knew their assignment and they did their job exactly how they needed to be. The best part about this is we had solutions on the bench. Inter Miami had solutions on the bench and they were it. I'm a little worried because Jorge Mas said yesterday in the post-game show that they already had the replacements for Alba and Busquets and verbal agreement and all that. But I think we have a ready-made midfield for next season. This is it. This is, I think, our most balanced, the best structured midfield that gives you everything. It gives you legs, it gives you technical talent, and it gives you Rodrigo de Paul's experience and veteranism in the middle. And that would be brilliant, I think. And we need to experiment and see that at some point next season. But that's the beauty of this Inter Miami squad this season. We went from Telasco Segovia being a regular starter to him being benched, but yet we question whether Telasco Segovia is going to have any impact off the bench. And I think every time he's come on, he's had an impact. He's made a change. He's controlled the games. And it's a shame he didn't get more minutes, but he's a brilliant player. And I agree with you. This will be my midfield for next season, hopefully.
Speaking of Segovia, and, one of the silver linings about him finding his way to being a off-the-bench player is, I would have guaranteed you he was going to leave this winter 5 months ago. And now I think there's a chance he stays. And so if he does, that would be an incredible nucleus to our midfield. We'll see. And listen, not going to talk about today, but the off season is going to come quick and in a hurry. And
it's going to come this afternoon.
It's going to come maybe by the time we finish this. So we'll all see how it unfolds. But those three together, I think, is like the promise of what it could be, and it allows you to do so much other things around it. So, and I just thought it helped them see this game out. They were completely overrun in the midfield, and Busquets and DePaul had to be basically at the edge of their own box to help clear everything out because they just couldn't hold possession. And then when those two guys came on, that everything changed, and Inter Miami was able to see the game out. So, huge part of confirming Inter Miami's MLS champions yesterday, those two.
Wow, everyone had a role to play yesterday, man. It was so good to watch.
Okay, that's it for awards, but other performances. Again, I taught the Ian Frey Award. I wanted to also shout out the entire back line: Maxi Falcone, Noah Allen, Rocco.
I actually wanted to give Maxi Falcone an award as well, just because he's been brilliant this playoffs. But what a player! No, I didn't have one. That was, yeah.
He was really good again yesterday. Rocco makes the huge save in the first half. The way this back line has transformed over the last, I think they had two transformations. They had one when they stopped playing so conservatively. It actually, ironically, helped the defense get better. But I think maybe since the day they put Rocco in, it has taken another step up and has been lights out. So the whole back line, huge credit.
To your point, AM mentioned in the chat, can't believe that the Achilles heel of this team was its defense. And in the playoffs, it was its strength. We conceded 2 goals all playoffs, 1 from open play. That is insane. That is a massive transformation.
Well, they gave up more than 2 goals, but
well, we gave 2 goals in open play, or 1 goal in open play.
But still, 4 goals in 5 games, 6 games is also
That's
really
insane.
good.
Yeah. Against some great teams, we shut out Cincinnati, we shut out NYCFC.
Yeah.
So the only team who scored on us was Nashville.
This was the most impressive one, right?
Yeah.
Because in those games, you can kind of control the game, so your defense isn't under a ton of pressure, which I think maybe you could have believed that would have happened. In this game, the defense had to play well, and they did. So congratulations, and specific on set pieces too, right? That was the bugaboo, and this was the great set piece team in MLS in Vancouver, and they had plenty of opportunities. And Inter Miami rejected them time and time and time again. So, yeah, huge shout out to the defense. And then I think the 2 attacking players, I think, also are worth mentioning. Tadeo Allende breaks the MLS playoff record for goals scored in a single playoff run. And Mateo Sovetti doesn't have the magic moment, but I also thought was really working hard to be an outlet. And especially in the first 10, 15 minutes, like helped be a catalyst for that first goal. So, I think those 2, especially Allende, deserve special recognition as well.
Yeah. Allende, man, transformed as a player. He's been nothing short of transformative. That's the word for him. So maybe we could have given him an award of something like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly or something. But again, he has a record to his name that might not be broken for years to come, by the way. So the fact that he was able to finish off as the outright highest scorer in a playoff run is who would have told you that? And you went on a boycott. Too, right? Yeah, you went on a boycott for Tadeo Allende not to play, and look how far we've come.
That's crazy.
The Metamorphosis Award, as Janet says. Thank you. That's beautiful.
But that is the Odyssey completely, right? Tadeo Allende just got home, right?
Yeah.
And
he's finally made it.
Yeah. He's going to have, he's another player we're going to talk about tomorrow in terms of his future.
So many interesting players and their futures, man. So many interesting talking points.
Okay. Anyone else you want to talk about? Cello comes off the bench and does what we need from him. So, but that was everyone. I guess shout out to Luis Suarez for not making it. Like, I do think he could have forced his way back into the starting 11 if he really wanted to. And he didn't. And Inter Miami won the MLS Cup as a result. So, not a huge shout out, but a shout out for that. Couple other things. Okay. In the MLS, they give out rings for winning the MLS Cup. And it doesn't just have to be the guys that were on the team during the final. And so I do want to just say to Inter Miami, I hope you give rings to the guys that were on the team, especially the guys that have long histories of MLS with Inter Miami at some point in this season. Guys like Kermowski, guys like... Well, Ryan Taylor.
Well, Ryan Taylor's going to get it, yeah. Yeah,
I'm talking about Kermowski,
Redondo,
Calendar, Redondo, Robert Taylor, anyone that played this year, I hope gets a ring because, and the reason I say that is because the reason Inter Miami hosted today is because they got 66 points, and Robert Taylor was a part of them getting points, and Drake Calendar was co-captain of this team early in the season and was a part of them getting points, and Kermowski was a part of them getting 3 points and had that huge performance in Columbus. And so it's not just what you do in the final, it's everything you do all season leads up to this moment. And so I hope everyone that was a part of that, especially the real Inter Miami guys, but really everyone gets the hardware that comes with it for being a part of it. So, and I think some of those decisions will probably be up to the club. So I hope the club sort of respects that. Okay, two things I want to do. One, in this playoff run, who turned themselves into an Inter Miami legend? That's what I want to talk about next, because if you perform in the biggest moments, you turn yourself into sort of a next level type player in the memory of Inter Miami fans. And I think there were guys that did that in this playoffs.
First
And
name?
I think none bigger than Tadeo Allende.
Tadeo Allende. First name on the list has to be Tadeo Allende. Nobody expected him to have the level of performances that he did. It's been nothing short of brilliant from him. His composure, his confidence has gone up. He looks like he's playing with a bit of swag in his step, and I love that. He needed that, and the fact that he's come all the way from us begging Mascherano to drop him to now scoring in every single playoff game almost. What a huge transformation, and he is legend status now, no doubt.
How many goals did he finish this season with?
20, I believe.
In the MLS.
In the MLS.
Plus a Club World Cup goal. Plus, I think he finished with 24 goals in all competitions, I think. And of course, in 5 years, we're going to look back on Tadeo Allende, and this is what we're going to remember.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
So, like, I think Inter Miami legend. And sometimes it's not about your whole career at Inter Miami. It's about can you deliver in the biggest moments. And so I think Tadeo Allende.
He's only been
Inter
here a
Miami
season,
legend.
And that might be his career. Yeah. He will be a legend,
and,
for sure.
And it could have only been the last 8 games, and you still be a legend. But that guy's going to have a record in the MLS record book. And I think that's going to stand for a while. And so congratulations to him. I think he became an Inter Miami legend in these playoffs.
Unless Messi decides to break it next season.
Yeah, but you got to remember, I think they're going to do away with the change the playoff structure.
Oh, yeah.
So there might not be as many games. So there's a chance it really lasts a long time. Matteo Silvetti, game changer.
I don't think
in these playoffs.
I think game changer. I don't know if he's legend status yet.
Maybe not legend status. Maybe this isn't about whether he's a legend, but legacy.
Yeah, breakout.
You know, maybe it's premature on Silvetti, but even if he, got abducted by aliens and never played another game for Inter Miami, like I do think we're going to remember this playoff run from him and think, man,
Fondly.
He changed a lot and was really special. And the fact he's coming back next year, I think,
it
makes us
it even
hesitant.
better.
It makes us hesitant to say that because we want to see him prove it more first, and we know he's going to have the opportunity, and maybe we don't necessarily know Allende's going to have the opportunity. But like I do think what he did changed Inter Miami in a way that allowed them to win the MLS Cup, and so like I think he deserves a lot of credit, even if he didn't have the magic moment in the final. Yeah,
and he went from being a bench player because he was at the World Cup to then cementing his place in the starting 11 in the playoffs. And we started the playoffs thinking, yeah, he's going to be important from the bench. He's not going to start. And we ended the playoffs with him starting and transforming into Miami's style of play. And he, again, is one of those players who doesn't let the moment get the better of him. And he's going to go so far. And I'm very excited to see what his future holds. Maybe not a legend, but a legacy for sure has just started yesterday evening.
Rocco. Also not guaranteed to come back. Like that could be it for Rocco Rios Nova in Miami.
Legend.
I think legend. He transformed the defense. They don't give up 4 goals in 6 games if he's not in goal. And so like I think we're gonna remember Rocco Rios Nova as like that dude did it. He was there. He showed up at the right moment, and he absolutely delivered a championship level performance for Inter Miami and helped them win the MLS Cup. So. Rocco Rios Novo, legend.
Legend status. Yeah.
I just also want to say, people all season I thought they were making jokes about Rocco and how great he was. It turns out they were right all along. And he is...
Rocco Blocco is an MLS Cup champion, man.
Yeah. I think
Rocco
ghosts run away from him. And, all the Chuck Norris jokes that people said, like I think they might be true. Rodrigo de Paul, and I know we mentioned it in the award, but if it wasn't for yesterday, Like if he just had played, even if he played fine like he did in the previous couple games, he played well, but didn't have like the special moment. I still think this entire offseason we would be talking about what is he going to be in 2026 and what does he have to do to be worth the price tag and the DP status and all that stuff. And I think all of that goes away now because he has the big moment. And so maybe we'll revisit this last year or next year, but I think for that one goal that delivered the MLS Cup, worth the price tag of bringing him over and what he's going to, the DP that he's going to take up for the next couple of years and all that stuff, like worth it because of that moment. That's why you brought him. It's to help win MLS Cups, and he did. So,
the romantic trope, we will always have Rome. This is Rodrigo de Paul's Rome. We will always have the MLS Cup final 2025. No matter what his Inter Miami career is after this, he will always be the player who changed the game in the final and had that game-winning goal. And that's huge. That's huge.
Yeah. And then the last one is Messi, who, again, we talked about.
He's been a legend for a while. So, but Inter Miami legend is, I think.
Okay, but now let's talk about legacy.
Yeah.
What do you think this does for his Inter Miami legacy?
This is it. I told you, vindication was the word I was looking for this entire playoffs. And he's vindicated the entire project. Now, we've already called this an A. It can only get to an A+ or A++, but nothing can take away from the fact that Inter Miami won an MLS Cup under Lionel Messi. If that hadn't happened, it would have always been an incomplete chapter, an incomplete journey. But now, this is Messi's team, and he's delivered what he set out to deliver. This makes the whole project worth it. It makes the whole project complete, and it makes the whole project a success. That's the legacy.
Yeah. Like I from the outside looking in, it makes it a success. And so, talking heads aren't going to be able to ask when it's over, oh, was it a success? Like none of that is going to happen. It was a success. I think they gave him the MVP for the season yesterday. I'm not sure. There was a lot of things going on.
Not the season. They gave him the MVP for the match.
No, I think they gave him the MVP for the season too. I don't know. Again, there was a lot of things going on. So I apologize if I'm wrong on that. It was an emotional day. There's a lot of things going on.
Really? Tell me about it.
Well, we just did for the last 80 minutes. 2 MVPs, MLS Cup MVP, wins an MLS Cup. Like from the outside looking in, it's success. It's over. It's a done deal. Like this was worth it. But I do think every Inter Miami fan has to sort of look into their heart and ask themselves, like, what did they want from the Lionel Messi era? And again, I know a lot of people came to Inter Miami because they are Messi fans, and so they just want to see him have success, and it's all great. But if you were an Inter Miami fan, you saw a lot of things about your club change. A lot of people that you really liked, that worked there, that played for the team, were moved on as part of this project and part of this direction that was headed by Lionel Messi. And so the ticket prices went way up, and so like you did lose part of the identity of what you were in order to become this. And so I think every fan has to ask themselves, what is worth it to have that happen? And granted, I'm not a season ticket holder. I'm not seeing my tickets go up every year. So everyone is allowed to have a different opinion. But for me, I'm curious to see how this is going to sit in terms of if this is if it makes it a personal success for me. But I do think this is like an unbelievably huge step in that direction. I think this in some ways vindicates Inter Miami as one of the sort of legitimate professional sports teams in South Florida alongside the Panthers and the Heat, and that will be doubled when they get to the new stadium. And like just as a fan, like I feel like this makes Inter Miami like one of the sort of premier clubs, and I guess this is probably a question that I'll sit with more, but like what level of success is it all just make it worth it? And
Yeah.
I think this was a huge, huge, huge step, if not.
I think this was the foundational block of that.
So I don't know. I mean, this is probably a conversation we will continue to have for the next 10 years. But
we just won the
I think
MLS Cup, man.
Yeah,
We just won the MLS Cup.
This was and will always be a huge part of it. Okay. Last thing. I think there's some goodbyes that we gotta do. Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba. Fantastic players, and it's been a privilege to watch them play. I think we talked about that. Luis Suarez, I get the way people talk about him. I think he finished with 34 goal contributions this year, and I think his time in Inter Miami is probably done. So I wanted to give him a special shout out, because he was a fantastic player, and there was huge moments this season from Luis Suarez, and I don't like the fact that people try to take that away from him, because they're very real. Tadeo Allende, we might have seen the last of Tadeo Allende in pink, Rocco Rios Novo, Fafa Picault, maybe Ryan Saylor, maybe Ian Frey. I don't want to miss anyone, so just give me a second. Oscar Stari, Toto Aviles, Cello Weigant, obviously Alba and Busquets, maybe Telasco Segovia. We heard about him earlier in the season as having potential suitors. Maybe Baltasar Rodriguez, Alan Obando. Like every single one of those players, this could theoretically be their very last game in Inter Miami. And so I really wanted to give them a shout out, because they were a huge part of everything that happened this season. And thank them for being a part of this, because it was really, really a great experience as a fan to be able to watch this team, and they were a part of what made that special. So to anyone that might have played their last game for Inter Miami or have been in an Inter Miami uniform for the last time yesterday, thank you, and good luck with everything that happens moving forward, either in retirement or with the rest of your professional future.
Yeah, I think it's important to express our gratitude to every single player who played for Inter Miami this season, but also recognize that the team will probably look very different next season. So everyone had a role to play one way or another. Will Yarbrough is an MLS Cup champion. Who would have thought? And I know my FPS is quite low, so I apologize for those on YouTube who are watching. But I think you said it really well, man. We're going to be saying goodbye to a lot of players starting tomorrow. And it's important to recognize everything that they added to it, led by Sergio Busquets, Jordi Alba, and maybe Luis Suarez, who again has had a brilliant season, and we just need to thank him for his services to Inter Miami.
And then one last goodbye, I think, is mandatory, and that is to Drive Pink Stadium. It's where I became a fan of Inter Miami, and I've been to plenty of games there, and I remember getting $11 tickets to go to U.S. Open Cup games and watching the rain delays and staying through them, and you know, obviously to see them build that out, and then to have Messi come and then put up bleachers just because they need more attendance, and to see this entire team transform with their original home. I don't know if they're going to play there again ever. You know, CONCACAF Champions Cup early next season, maybe, we'll see. But talking about the poetic nature of how Jordi Alba and Sergio Busquets are going to retire and finishing with an MLS Cup, like, I think that also applies to Drive Pink Stadium, which is going to retire celebrating an MLS Cup, and that is a big part of my fandom at Inter Miami. And we'll go to Miami Freedom Park, and it'll become the new home. But as we say goodbye to this, like, I think it's also worth just being appreciative of our first home, and that we get to celebrate an MLS Cup there as its finale is pretty special as well.
The last game of the season, the last game at Chase Stadium, at Drive Pink Stadium, and Inter Miami lifts the MLS Cup. What's a more poetic story? I often think that stadiums represent the soul of a club, and especially when you win stuff at that stadium, you leave a little bit behind when you change stadiums. So it's going to be a sad ending at Drive Pink Stadium, but we named our podcast after that, and we're always going to carry it with us into the future. So it's going to be a great future. We're going to have a lot more story to write, a lot more story to tell, but we have to remember where we come from. And I think it's a fitting way to say goodbye to Chase Stadium, to Drive Pink Stadium.
All right, guys, we'll wrap it up there. We wanted to do an entire episode dedicated to celebrating this season and this championship and this team. And I know that today Inter Miami has to make decisions on a lot of players, and I just mentioned a couple that might not be back, and guys that are on loan that have options to buy, and what are they going to do with that? What are they going to do with player decisions? Like, all of that is due today, the day after the MLS Cup, and it's a shame we don't have a couple days to just appreciate this
digest
before we have to say goodbye to a lot of guys. But lots of those decisions. I've seen some questions in the chat about what they're going to do with the U22 spots, or do they keep this player or that, or how does it affect the cap? And all of those are conversations we're going to have tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll break down the roster decisions and all that stuff. But we really wanted to just have one episode dedicated to just celebrating this moment, because you don't get them every year. You don't get them all the time. And it is really special. So thank you so much for being a part of the journey. And also, I want to say this. A lot of people, and so I'm sure you've gotten this too, a lot of people have said some really nice things to us about this journey and being with us and watching what we say and put out and do on social media and stuff. And thank you to all of you guys, because there's been some really lovely comments, and I really appreciate all of them. And I feel really blessed and happy and excited, and like, this is just a wonderful moment, and I love that so much. So thank you.
Inter Miami is the MLS Cup champions for 2025, and nothing can take that away from us. The star on the chest is real. Carry it with pride, guys. We will see you very, very soon, starting tomorrow, building up to the new season and for a new journey. Scotty, you can take us away.
Guys, thanks so much. We will see you tomorrow. Until then, enjoy this MLS Cup championship. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. Do us a favor and hit that like and subscribe button. Since our first viewer, sharing this with you all has been the very best part. So from the beginning until the end, thank you for being a part of this, and have a wonderful day.